Okay. Yeah, so my name's Dan, I'm from Contagious, and I'm here to talk about trends. And the only way really to start off a presentation about trends is to kick off with an utterly contemporary way to start a presentation, which is to put up the definition of the topic. But I'm not actually going to kind of take that route. What I want to do instead is talk about some experience that Contagious has had over the last kind of, I guess, 12 to 18 months, where we've been working with a client and its partner agencies on really trying to reformulate the kind of client briefing process and the agency briefing process as well. And hopefully along the way, what will emerge is the way that trends were really kind of a part of that, and how rather than sort of plucking trends from trend reports and layering or mapping them onto brands and onto campaigns, what we really need to do is get under the skin of them, understand their drivers, and understand how to integrate them into the kind of complete brand challenge. But I think that a lot of what we're talking about today, as Paul said at the start, is all about a reimagination of business. And the internet doyenne, Mary Meeker, I think earlier this year said, market capitalization, in market cap terms, there's $36 trillion worth of business that's waiting to be reimagined by digital and by mobile. And so surely, yeah, marketing and advertising has to be kind of a part of that as well. How do we go about reimagining all of our processes? And so this example is, it sort of sits in between client briefing and agency briefing. And I guess on one side of that, we've got the world of client briefing changing. And we had Mark Pritchard in Cannes the other week, and he was saying how P&G is shifting from providing laborious client briefs to trying to drill down into a simple kind of business challenge. So I think he sort of said that one of the examples of a brief that they'd handed to an agency was drive awareness amongst occasional users to drive consumer value, and in turn explain to them the benefits of winning the lime scale deposit battle. And instead going to something that's a little bit more kind of tangible, which is make Tide Pods irresistible. And then on the other side, we've got, the agency brief world kind of changing as well. And we've heard about, agencies tinkering with changing the word insight for tension to reflect the whole problem-solving nature that we have, rather than the entertaining nature of the sort of prerogative for brands and agencies. And also, Facebook, I think, at Cannes as well, they said, start every brief by writing what it's going to look like on the newsfeed eventually. So like kind of a sort of self-driven sort of thing that they were doing there as well. But first of all, what I want to do is take us to Buenos Aires to talk about the example that I want to talk about, which we've been using with Contagious. And within this picture, what we have is a converted garage in the middle of Buenos Aires. And the people that you can see in the picture are a combination of brand managers from a client. They are creatives and planners from agencies. They're creative technologists. There are market researchers in there. There are community managers, and there's even digital marketing students in there as well. And they're all trying to work with the client to completely reformulate the kind of creative process that's underway. So moving away from, the client comes up with the product and they take the product to the agency comes up with the idea in that kind of really sort of linear fashion, and reformat it for something that's more reflective of the digital age in which we're living. So, with information abundance and information coming at all angles, that whole idea that actually, if you're a manager today, you're probably unlikely to have really experienced the jobs of the people that you're managing, because it's been disrupted so much by technology, and their roles have completely changed from when you were in their position. And the fact that the business challenges that we're trying to overcome, as we've kind of touched on earlier, like really, really complex, and you need loads of expertise and different skills to navigate a much more kind of complex kind of area. So that's what they're trying to achieve. And the client in question, actually, it might be a little bit of a surprise. It's not kind of a challenger brand. It's Kraft, so a huge 50 billion annual revenue company that's not actually really known for doing really kind of creative and innovative advertising in of itself usually. This is the name of the project that all of these guys are working under. It's called Project Fly, and their task, all of these people in that room, over the course of 3 weeks, was to overcome a challenge for a chewing gum brand called Beldent in Latin America. Now, from Kraft, what they've done is they provided about 9 or 10 marketers from around the region, and not all of them were really brand managers from Beldent. They were from all different types of brands. And when they came to the garage, like titles and hierarchies were left at the door. So they'd gone into a completely hierarchy-free environment where people could, effectively kind of create new roles for themselves over the course of those 3 weeks. And then we had a load of partners as well. Let me just shift out of the way. So a load of partners came in to take part in the process as well. So we've got the likes of Brain Juicer, Saatchi & Saatchi, Deep Local, Castro, We Are Social, Hyper Island. Some of these are roster agencies, some of them weren't roster agencies. But yeah, again, all of those hierarchies and kind of conceptions about what people could bring to the table, they were deliberately left at the door. So, you know, candid conversations were the king in the process. And just a very, very quick word on what we were doing there. Our role at Contagious was to kind of pull the kind of 3 weeks together, to go in there with the typical kind of presentations that we give that are based on sort of case studies and other trends that we've identified, and effectively knit the sort of 3 weeks together and get all the partners sort of working together. Now, I mentioned what Mark Pritchard was saying about how the way that they were bringing their client brief to agencies. What Kraft did in this situation was, once they had everyone within the room, is brings them the regular insights and business challenge kind of document, but it was left to all of the collaborators within the room to come up within about a day and a half what the single business challenge was, or what the mission statement was for the next 3 weeks. And in this situation, what they came up with was release fun. And they had to work incredibly quickly. The idea was that over the course of 3 weeks, once they decided on that mission sort of statement after 2 days, the rest of the sort of 3 week process was left for brainstorming, workshops, presentations, field trips, and experience prototyping crucially as well. And this is where the kind of garage atmosphere really came into its own, because people were exposed to influences that they hadn't usually been exposed to. They were trying out completely different business challenges and getting their hands dirty in terms of making and prototyping all of this stuff that they wanted to take forward. And in the end, what resulted was 10 ideas, 10 creative ideas for Kraft to use in Latin America to work with those partner agencies that we mentioned going forward into the future. And I know that this kind of setup, it's kind of unique and it's maybe not something that's regularly workable. So for example, you know, Kraft is a huge company with lots and lots of people working in the marketing teams. A lot of those people from Kraft hadn't actually met one another before, so they were being thrown into a completely new kind of context. And what's more, I guess there's an experimentation bias. For lots of these people, this was the first time they'd worked in this kind of environment. Whether they do so on a regular basis kind of remains to be seen. But we have got kind of a few learnings from the whole process, which I think are kind of really important and maybe interesting to the overall briefing debate. And that first one is that by moving to doing, by prototyping all of this stuff, because they had such a short amount of time to do all of this within, they had to be testing their ideas and getting a certain way down the line in terms of creating them. They avoided what we call at Contagious the dude we should do philosophy. And this, the dude we should do philosophy is all about, you know, sometimes putting innovation and technology ahead of actual insight into what experience actually is. So, you know, like, dude, we should do QR codes, or dude, we should do augmented reality. By prototyping all of this stuff within the garage, people got a sense of whether the experience was right and whether it was something that real people would actually want to engage and kind of participate in. This was something that a lot of the partners kind of said after the session. You know, the external agency and client boundaries are sort of shifting and changing. By getting everyone in that room for an extended period and dropping all of the hierarchy and titles, they were able to move at a much quicker pace, you know, at higher velocity, and get further down the line with their ideas and ensure that they were on the right tracks. So that was an interesting thing to come out of this as well. This is probably a roundabout way of just saying the world is getting more collaborative. So that, yeah, but obviously the world is getting more collaborative. And by one of the things that these people found was that by being collaborative, if you can be collaborative and prove to your client that you're able to work with different people with different skills, you make yourself completely indispensable, because the challenges that businesses are trying to overcome tend to be much more complex. There's a technology landscape that's much more diverse and requires a different set of skills, or lots of different sets of skills. So being collaborative makes yourself completely indispensable. And then finally, yeah, you know, we made it scary for people, and we found out, yeah, empowered people completely win. People who didn't think of themselves as being creative were completely able to engage and provide real value in the process as well. So we think that was something cool to come out of it. Thank you.